And what makes this talk very interesting is that I think, Neil, when you asked them how many people want to become doctors and engineers, I didn't see very many hands getting raised. So I'm assuming a lot of you want to become entrepreneurs, right? Okay, great. So let's talk about entrepreneurship. People get very scared here. It's an intimidating word because there are not too many courses. There's nothing much on entrepreneurship. But actually, it's very simple and it's just common sense. And most of it boils down to the culture and tradition which exists in India. For somebody like you or somebody like me, it's very easy because we've lived in this country here, so we know what it is. But for somebody coming in from abroad, trying to set up a business, it's one of the toughest things to do because of our rich and diverse culture. So it's great. In fact, I'm going to talk about one of my biggest learnings, and that was very early when I was in college. And I'm looking at a lot of you. It reminds me of my good old days when I was a young fellow. And you know, life was great. I was in college. Life was just fun and frolic. I couldn't have chosen a better life. And like any other normal person, finally, my life was complete. You know why? Because I started seeing someone in college. Fantastic. Like, I'm sure my parents would have been very proud because that's the sole purpose they sent me there. so it was great. But you know, something happened, and that is something that I want to tell you, and I'm sure a lot of you will associate with it. The thing is that never put your interest. What I started doing was I started putting my interests and my hobbies and whatever else I wanted to do, I started compromising on those, yeah. So if I was a part of the college band, I started missing practices. The regular fitness gym routine started becoming very leisurely strolls. Okay, so that's something. So I realized that I gave a lot to the relationship. And finally, in fact, I'm going to sum up the relationship, and I'll tell you what happened to me. Okay, this is primarily, this is a lovely quote by Ghalib. Yeah. So let me just tell you. So it goes, and you'll understand what happened to me. Yeah. So मोहब्बत के नशे में आके उसे खुदा बना डाला. Like, मोहब्बत के नशे में आके उसे खुदा बना डाला. होश तब आया जब उसने कहा खुदा एक का नहीं सबका होता है. Got it? Okay, so that's a big learning for me. So what was my learning? My learning was that in life, never take anything for granted. Yeah. Nothing. So till this date, I make sure that I live by that principle. So I may have many people working for me. You know, I empower a lot of them. A lot of them do a lot of work. My CFO is there. The whole corporate jig bang is there. But I ensure that I'm always on top of things. Luckily, being an entrepreneur, I have a lot of time, by the way, which is great, which is why I want all of you to get into entrepreneurship. Because as for me, that's the best way you can live your life. But it's important that be on top of things. Okay, so that's one of my foremost learning. And it's a very general learning, but I'll tell you more specific learnings as we progress into the talk. Now, I came from a middle-class background. And like any other middle-class guy, I was groomed to be an employee. And that's what I became, finally. So I started working for a hotel chain. And I realized that that's not my cup of tea. I really wanted to move away from the hotel chain. But you know, I realized deep down I was addicted to something. So what was I addicted to, which made it so difficult for me to actually move away from it? And that is the lure of money. There was a paycheck coming at the end of the month. That paycheck took care of everything, right? All my travels, all the fun that I wanted to have. So it was very difficult for me to isolate myself and think how I could start a business, because business is not, it doesn't pay you from the word go. It takes time. It may take time or may not take time, but you never know what's going to happen. So for all of you, I think when you're getting into the entrepreneurship journey, please ensure that you're able to somehow isolate yourself and not get used to that little money that you get at the end of the month. Because trust me, if you want to pursue your dreams, that money is not worth it. Okay? And that only takes, it's a simple logic. It's practice makes perfect. So if you can't do that, you've got to really practice. Not all of us are born like that. You know, most of us may not know. We may not know what to practice. Just like you practice a particular skill, you practice a sport and you become better. Mentally, you've got to do this. And in entrepreneurship, it's extremely important. okay, to isolate yourself and not be very emotional. That's another thing that I want to tell you. Entrepreneurship also means that you need to have a lot of confidence, and that self-confidence should be real. It shouldn't be an act of bravado. Today, if I stand here and talk, it cannot be an act of bravado, because then I'll be fooling you, right? So you need confidence, and that confidence comes from, again, practice. Not all of us are born confident, but you need to get into the thick of things, work towards it, and become confident. And why you need confidence is because there will be people working for you, right? And you'll be a startup. I'm assuming you'll be a startup. So when you're a startup, you don't have so much money. So you want to attract good talent. The good talent will come based on your personality, okay? Which is why it's very important. Tomorrow, when you go and set up businesses, you'll be imparting your personality to the business, and that's what makes it successful. That's what makes it different. You know, just by doing something very different doesn't make the business different. It's your personality that you lend to the business makes it different. So look, I've been in many businesses. Nightclub business, very different. Restaurant business, bar business, primarily hospitality, and then Kevintis, of course. And there are many learnings that I learned, okay? There are some specific learnings that I want to tell you, because why reinvent the wheel? If there's something that I learned, I want to tell you about it. So, a lot of you would have read in your management books that you've got to do something which is completely out of the box. You know, I'm sure it's a very, you read a lot of Philip Kotler books or any management book, and something be written that do something out of the box and it should be completely different. Now, where I'm concerned, I do not agree with the thought here. In fact, I did a restaurant long back in the year 2000, and we introduced molecular gastronomy over there. Now, nobody understood molecular gastronomy. It was a failure. Nothing happened. Eventually, we had to run it as a bar to even recover the money that we had to put in. So the thing is that when you do business and when you look at the product, always look at product familiarity. Think about this. The product should be familiar. There should be no geographical barriers for the product. So, for example, let's take something like a milkshake. Now, milkshake is known across as a milkshake, right? Whether it's north, whether it's south, whether it's east, whether it's west, a milkshake is called a milkshake. So ensure when you take up a business, take up something which is familiar. Familiarity is very important in business. Okay. I'm also telling you some generic things, but it's important because, you know, we get swayed by what we learn, and we unnecessarily think that business is complicated. It's not complicated. Now let's talk about, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you've got to do things with your gut, okay? You've got to have a gut feel, and you've got to be aggressive in life. You cannot say, okay, yeah, I want to start a business and I'll wait for 3 years and I'll wait for 4 years and I'll do my research work and I'll do stats and I'll get information from Google. That's all bull, yeah, as per me. If you want to start your business, pick up your things. You want to start a chai business, pick up the ingredients, with whatever little money you have, just start the business and be aggressive. And that is the way to do business. This system, process, all that is fine, and that comes later. You can employ people here to get all those processes in. Why will you waste your own time? Yeah? Let other people do it. People who are good at it. So don't waste your time there, okay? I also want to tell you, in fact, I'll give you an example. There was, you know, for example, at Kevintis, we wanted to start an ice cream business. Now, I got 2-3 ice creams, and I really like the ice creams. But my marketing comes and tells me, just because you like the ice cream doesn't mean that the whole world likes the ice cream. So we're going to call a focus group. So I said, what do you mean by a focus group here? So they say, actually, we're going to pay money to people who will come and they'll tell you how good your ice cream is and whether it's worth it for the market. So I said, yeah, listen, is this really a focus group? You mean to say I'm going to pay money to these people to come and tell me what I'm supposed to do? So it was shocking. Now my thing is that, yeah, if I like ice cream, okay, and I think this flavor is good, chances are that 80% of you will also like it. Why will I get somebody here to come and tell me what my ice cream tastes like? And I'll tell you what happened. Sure enough, there were 15 people. They were all sitting there. And I'm going to give you this example. So tasted the ice cream. The first guy says, amazing ice cream. I've never had anything better. Second guy takes the ice cream. He says, yeah, texture is very good. Third guy, texture is good, but it's a little salty. Fourth guy, so on and so forth. Now, by the time it reached the 7th guy, now these guys have paid to come and do a job. By the time it reached the 7th guy, that guy is wondering, what should I say? Because everybody is they've all said something or the other. So he just uttered something. Now, by the time it came to the 11th guy, that guy was flabbergasted. He had no idea what to say. Okay? And it was very irritating for a person like me because I'd wasted time, I'd wasted money. And at the end of the day, today, I introduced the same ice cream and it's doing rather well. So my point is, it was a complete waste of time for me to do something like this. And what I'm trying to tell you, you don't need all of this right now. Right now, you just need to go and do the business. And that's very important. Okay? Now, another very important thing is here, once you've got a business running, you must understand that people get bored. Okay? People get very bored, yeah. We don't have the focus, we don't have the attention span, what we used to have, but anyway, people do get bored. So business needs innovation. But how much can you innovate? For example, at Kevinter's, now I've got, say I've got my Choco Oreo shake, which is probably one of the highest selling milkshakes, or the butterscotch. But how much innovation can I do in that? Beyond a point, I won't be able to do innovation. So you know what we did, but innovation is important because you don't want to change your product. So think of ways, and when you do different businesses, think of ways where you can innovate. How did we innovate? We use the bottle, okay? We use the glass bottle, and instead of innovating and changing the product all the time, the core product, we changed the packaging of the product. So we had the bottle. So you must have seen, we've got colored bottles, we've got something written on the bottles, we didn't spare any event, whether it was the festival of Holi, Diwali, everything was on the bottle. And soon the bottles became a collector's item. So it's essential, but it's a little overrated. When people brought product innovation, we always think that, oh, you've got to change the product and keep changing something, but there are many things that you can do around the product. I think it's important that you change, right now when you start off, change things around the product, because when you've started or you've done something, you don't want to fiddle with that, especially if it's doing well in the market. Okay? Now let's say your product is running good. What do you want to do? You cannot just leave your business how it is. You need to reach out and scale it up. If you don't scale the business, you will never achieve valuation. You know, in business, the most important thing that we call is the same store sales growth. It's called SSSG, which is a very important term. But you must scale up the business. Now, what is the way to scale up the business? In fact, I must give you an example. I tried to scale up my business, and I tried to scale up my restaurant business, but I just couldn't scale it up. Because when I took it to another city, I realized that the city was completely different. Okay, the culture was different. The way they saw the product was different, and then I realized, and I got my answer, which is very important. Tomorrow, a lot of you will want to scale up the business, right? Now, the way to scale up your business is that there is this scaling up of business in India is community first, and then you scale your business. You've got to become a part of the community. And I want to give you an example. Now, if you look at the forces, you look at the armed forces. Earlier, when the armed forces when the armed forces in India were part of the British Army, at that time, the British realized that they were not willing to go beyond X, the soldiers. Okay, they wanted the soldiers to go beyond X. They wanted the soldiers to. So what did they do? All the fighting arms, if you remember, and this is still true even today, all the fighting arms, they got communities together. So you had Rajputana. So all the Rajputs became Rajputana rifles, something like that. Grenadiers, the Jat regiment came together. The Assam Rifles is another example. Like this, if you think, you can think of many examples. The point I'm trying to make is, not only did they create the fighting arms of the armed forces of different communities, but they also gave them war cries, which was separate. They also gave them uniforms. They also gave them certain weapons, which were kind of associated with the culture. Now, all of a sudden, things changed. People were willing to do whatever they could for their community first, and automatically, India followed through. So the point I'm trying to make is, when you do your business, reach out to the communities. And it doesn't have to be so complicated like what I'm talking. In Kevinter's, what did we do? We looked at merely the bottles when they reached out. For example, when we went to Dubai, for example, just to give an example. Now, Dubai, they take pride in the Burj Khalifas and the tall buildings, so that's what we conveyed. When we went to Kenya, for example, Kenya loves the animals here. The big 5 animals, they were there on the bottle, okay? So it's a very simple way, but you can actually get into community. And that is very, very important. So when you're scaling up your business, please ensure community has to come first. Whichever business you may have, I guarantee you, when you think like this, you'll be able to pinpoint what you can do, for the community. Okay, look, we've spoken about all this, but what about people who are working for you, right? What do we do with them? Now, that's the difference between the West and us as Indians. What do the West do? They treat people like assets, right? And you hear any company which is an MNC, right? First thing they do when something happens, fire everybody. We are not like that, yeah? We value people, right? And you've got to understand, you don't have to learn this from the West. You form your own opinion. Why do people join you? People join you because you have to treat people like an extension, like they're extension of your own family. That's what you need to do. Now, if you follow the West, there is something wrong. You cannot do that, okay? And a lot of people don't realize, and that is why you see a lot of business failing, because the Westerners, when they come in, they don't understand this. And it's not easy to understand. Fine, if you employ foreigners and doing business abroad, it's great. But in India, always make sure that it's the family. And that is what. And certain occasions are very important in the family. You can't be sitting on your phone and saying happy birthday if your employee's birthday is there. Or, you know, whatever the occasion is. You've got to be there on the floor, meeting your employee, shaking hands with him, and doing whatever you can. And if it's somebody's wedding, you are expected that you'll be there with a gift, and these are simple things, yeah. Okay? So you must understand this. And a lot of people don't follow this. West, another example I would like, they don't even understand hierarchies. Now for us, it's very important. Hierarchy is one of the most important things in businesses that you must understand. Tomorrow, when all of you go and set up companies, you must understand hierarchies. What is hierarchy? Anybody who gets promoted has certain expectations in our country. Okay? What is the expectation? If I get promoted, I'll get a better shirt, or I'll get a shirt which is better than what the rest of my employees are wearing. I'll get an office, maybe I'll have an assistant, maybe I'll have a secretary, depending on what position you reach. Okay? But hierarchy is extremely important. A lot of us do not understand. For example, a lot of companies, you'll see the same guy is cooking and the same guy is cleaning and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't work in India. And it will, and this will continue for the next 50, 60, maybe 80 years. It is not going anywhere. So why fight it? Just be there. I'll give you a wonderful example, in fact, about hierarchy. So one of these days I decided to pick up a nice car. So I bought a BMW. Okay. Now, so my driver was there and we're talking about hierarchy, just to give an example. So all of a sudden the driver says, "Saab, yaar, kuch kehna hai?" So I said, "Batao, what is it?" So the guy says, "Okay, now you've bought a BMW. So there are certain things that we need to do." So I asked him, "What?" So pehli cheez. So first of all, my pay has to increase. I said, "The reason?" "What is the reason?" He said, "Now I'm not driving an ordinary car, I'm driving a BMW. So obviously you've got to pay me a lot more." I said, "That's great." Done, yeah. Hierarchy. I'm just giving an example. So I thought I'm finished here, yeah. After some time, the guy says, "I forgot to tell you one day." I said, "Now what happened, yeah?" He said, "Oh, you need to give me safari suits." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because I can't be driving this BMW in ordinary clothes. I need to look like somebody cool, right?" So imagine, so I had to give him safari suits. Third thing he tells me is that I'm not even going to wash the car. I said, "Why?" He said, "No, you'll have to now recruit somebody who'll wash the car because now I'm driving a much bigger car." And by the way, I'm not fibbing when I tell you this. This is actually truth. I'm not making up anything, and I don't do that. Similarly with my cook. You know, I own restaurants. I send my cook. I say, "Yeah, go and learn a couple of dishes. Let's eat some Chinese khana. I'm fed up of eating what you're making." So the guy went, he did his training, and he did his training for a few days, came back. Now all of a sudden he comes to my kitchen and see the dishes are not washed. Yeah. So I asked him, "What happened, buddy?" He says, "Sorry, now I'm not a cook, I'm a chef." So hierarchy, yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you. So you can't move away from this, yeah. And this a Westerner will not understand. Anybody who's coming from abroad, MNCs, blah, 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 they cannot understand this. But you can understand because you've experienced it firsthand. So why will you fight it, yeah? Just be there. I think one last thing I want to tell you is that, you know, you want to become entrepreneurs, you've got to have the gut feel and you've got to have the ability to become an entrepreneur. But I see a lot of people, they're always cribbing. They're always saying, "Arey, yaar, that that guy, his father put in a lot of money, he became an entrepreneur very easily. That guy is born with a golden spoon in his mouth. Stuff like that. If you have that attitude, you cannot become an entrepreneur. Do not become an entrepreneur. Like your story. In fact, you were talking about, I think you were also an entrepreneur of sorts. Yeah. So the thing is that you had you didn't rely on people. Yeah. I mean, in your profession, there would be so many people. And a lot of us do that. Yeah. You cannot, because you're doomed losers if you do that. And you don't want to be a loser. In fact, so it's extremely important that you ignore such people in life. Okay? And don't think about them. You've got to make your own life. Again, I love Galib, yeah, so I'll quote just for the losers, yeah. It goes like, हाथों की लकीरों पे मत जा गालिब, नसीब उनकी भी होती है जिनके हाथ नहीं होते. Got it? So, this is what I wanted to tell you guys, okay? It's very easy, go ahead. Entrepreneurship has changed my life, yeah, partner. Today, I have all the time to do whatever I want. I've got a great team running my business. If I want to play golf, the whole day, not 18 holes. I want to play 36 holes, there's nobody to stop me. I can go and play. Well, maybe my wife can stop me, but that's one odd, right? But that's just my wife. Nobody else, right? So look at what it's given me. I have all the time. Tomorrow I want to go to London, there's nobody stopping me. I can just go. Because my business is running and it's running automatic. Yes, I worked on it. The day I want to work 24 hours, nobody can stop me, right? There's no government rules, nothing. I can do what I want. And tomorrow, I can pursue my hobbies. I want to do drone flying, I can do that. I want to do backflips like you, I can go somewhere, learn, right? I want to, maybe acting, I don't know. I can try. But the thing is that it gives me freedom to do things. At your age, India is encouraging entrepreneurs. Why will you not follow your dreams? Yeah. Would you rather work for somebody else and make his dreams come true? It doesn't make sense. You should always follow your dreams. And believe me, it's the best thing that can happen to you. Entrepreneurship is something where your life, where your work becomes a part of your life. Otherwise, every time you hear people, they say, oh yeah, I have no life. I'm just working. That's all. So I would encourage all of you to go ahead, become entrepreneurs. And this is a great stage for all of us. So let's go ahead and build a life. Let's not live a life. All right? Thank you very much.